Hello. I'm making this video to show you how to replace the knob assembly on a SkeinTwister. This is what the knob assembly looks like. This isn't something that is a normal repair. The reason I'm making this video is because it seems like one person's SkeinTwister has a malfunctioning knob assembly, so I'm just showing you how to replace it. So the first thing with any SkeinTwister repair is to take the base and take the lid off. So first we're going to do that, and you take the base off just with these 4 screws. I'm using a Phillips number 1 screwdriver. You can use a number 2 as well because the screw heads are kind of nice and big, but either one will do. Not too big of a deal as to which one to use. And I always like to have a little dish handy to keep my screws from rolling around, although it's also useful to have like a little bit of a rubbery surface here as well to keep things from sliding. All right, so now the base just comes off, and then turn this over and undo these 4 screws. These I'm also using a number 1 Phillips screwdriver. 2 might be a little big for these, and they might feel like they're just a little bit harder to start. That's because I use Loctite in the final assembly. Loctite is just a mild adhesive that keeps these screws from coming loose over time or backing out. So it's no big deal. You don't have to re-Loctite them. There's sort of like enough leftover Loctite in the threads to generally withstand being taken apart and put together a couple of times. Stabilize that. And last screw. Okay. And then the lid comes off, and you should see SkeinTwister guts. Yay, SkeinTwister guts. So this is right here is what we'll be replacing. The first thing to do is to unplug it from the circuit board here, and really you just can grab the wires here. They're usually tucked in sort of underneath the motor there. You can just untuck them and basically just pull straight up. So, and you can pull them by the wires. It's hard to get just the connector because it's super tiny. So usually we don't like pulling things by the wires, but in this case it's fine. So you can just go like this. And it'll take like a little bit of force and it'll pop out because it has like a little locking connector in it. All right, so now we'll turn the SkeinTwister back over, take the knob off, can just pull it straight up and it should pop right off. If you need to wiggle it back and forth to get it started, just be gentle, you can do that, but it should just pull straight out. So there's a nut here that's holding it in, and you can use a number 10 wrench, or sorry, 10 millimeter wrench, yes, metric. Or you can use, like if you have a teeny tiny adjustable socket wrench, you can use that too. But 10 millimeter wrench, or if you have a socket, it just has to be deep enough to like go over this knob here. So I like to hold the back of this rotary pot right here with my finger as I loosen it up. So I do that. And then I can just unscrew it the rest of the way with my fingers. And there is a nut here, and then there's a washer underneath the nut. And it should just come right out. And then I can just pull this little guy out. No problem. And the whole thing comes out. So now, it's probably important here to note that the old one looks just like the new one, so do try to keep them separate, like put the old one aside or put a piece of tape around it to mark it as the old one, whatever, just so you don't like get distracted, come back and be confused and be like, oh no, which one was the new one? So, so then you can take the new one. When you put this back in the box, you'll notice that there are actually 2 holes here. One is kind of covered by the label on the front a little bit, but it's like right there. And that just is like a keyhole for this little tab that sticks through. That's just to keep the rotary knob in place. So you can just put the shaft through the big hole and kind of feel around until you feel the other, the tab go through the other hole, and then you shouldn't be able to rotate it. So now the washer back on, and then the nut back on, and then I tighten it with my fingers as much as I can. And here, I'll use this guy this time. If you are using this style of wrench, it's just important to like just tighten it till it's snug, but like don't like fully crank on it, because you know, it's a relatively small threads and it could be possible to damage those. So, you know, just until it's like snug. The other thing to note, in case if this cable like pops off of this or something, or you accidentally yank it off, some of them might have different colors on them. It's a long story. Vendors, yay, not doing what you tell them to do and not following drawings properly. So the way to tell whether or not it's in, that this guy is in the proper orientation, because it could potentially be either way, is that these slightly raised tabs are facing up. And on the other side, let me just take this off just to show you a little bit better. So these slightly raised tabs are on the are facing you here. What you should not see any of the metal contacts showing through. So as long as you're like this, no metal contacts showing through, you're in the proper orientation, even if the color scheme is different. On the other side, there's only one way that this can be plugged in. It's keyed, so you actually like can't plug it in backwards, so that's nice. So it can basically only be plugged in one way, and it should kind of snap in like that. You should feel it kind of click into place. Just push it straight in. And then I kind of just dress these wires nicely. I kind of tuck them in between like here and here on the motor, just so that they kind of stay nice. So that is basically it. At this point, before you button everything back up, it's probably a good idea to test your SkeinTwister. Oh, and then the knob goes right back on. I like to turn the knob all the way clockwise, and you'll notice that there's a little, bridge here, a little plastic bridge in the middle that keys right into the slot in this knob. So, you know, and it is also pointing in the same direction as the marking. So basically put your marking, line that up over top, and you'll be able to kind of feel when it goes in. I'm not doing this very well because I'm looking at it at a weird angle because of this video, but let me see. It's actually really not this hard. It's just the video that's making it difficult. There we go. So it just slides right in, pushes straight on, and there you go. And it should turn between tap on, tap off, and press and hold like that. So this would be a good time to just like briefly try out your SkeinTwister and see if that works before buttoning it up. You can do this with the hook installed. You don't have to take the hook out first. That's fine. But then, yeah, if it all works, then awesome. Then continue to button it up. Just make sure there are no cables like sticking out or overflowing the box. There shouldn't be. And that goes back on. You can just screw these guys back in. I just leave them a little bit loose until all four are in, because, you know, I was taught to always do the final tightening in like a star pattern or an X pattern, and I just always do that. It's a habit. It's probably a good habit. Reduces your chances of like getting things cross-threaded and damaging fasteners. So, all right, now that they're all in, just tighten them all up. And then same thing goes for this. Line that guy up. Put these back on. And yeah, that's about it. These might feel a little harder to go in actually this time around because they're wood screws, but no big deal. Just kind of make sure that they're straight and they should go in. I would not recommend doing this with power drill because the torque cutoff on power drills are generally kind of high. So I would do these by hand so that you don't like accidentally like strip any threads or anything like that. It's more an issue on the lid than it is on the base. But there you go. That's it. You are now a SkeinTwister repair guru.